So I will not say more because Muhammad, he said enough. So my name is Kareem Mahmoud, and in short, I'm a teacher educator at Luxford Classes. Today, we are discussing a topic that it's a bit challenging to most of teachers, especially the new ones. Uh, and the major point here is what are the main benefits of dictionaries? Do we actually use dictionaries inside the classrooms, outside classrooms? If you're not a teacher and you're in the field of business and all that stuff, you're an employee, sometimes you come across a word that you don't know, you're not familiar with. And how do you use the dictionary? Will dictionary or dictionaries be sufficient resource to you? We'll see in this. So we have here a quote, and the quote says, reference skills are the abilities required on the part of the dictionary users to find information being sought. So what do you think? Do you agree or disagree? Can you can type on the chat box. Do you agree it's only the ability to find information? It's all about the information? What do you think? So some people, they agree, some people do not. Okay. So personally, I do not fully agree with this. So um, this statement by Hartman and James, those people did sometimes you can tell out of the context. Yes, from the far side, it's a bit true because sometimes I check the dictionary only to look for a meaning. So it's very rare that I check, for example, pronunciation, stress, and all that because I'm not specialized in English language, for example. I'm just an employee. But if I'm an English teacher or a student, a learner, perhaps these particular information would be of a benefit to me. So then the usage of dictionaries mainly depends on the end user or the target audience. So let's say today we have three major questions to discuss. So what are the different stages in the process of using dictionaries? And do the common European framework of reference for languages relates to dictionary skills and the proficiency level, and what are the challenges and pitfalls of dictionary usage? So we all know that that's a common or a stereotyped idea and image of a dictionary, that it is a book. For example, that one is a book. And if I want to check a word, I'll start to do skimming to this text till I find the things and then to scan the exact meaning I wish to find. So the dictionary skills, is it only that I look up at the dictionary like this? So I, for example, want to check the word go. So I would go to the G letter, and then I start to list, sort things, check, scan for the word till I get it. Ah, that's it. So what's the meaning of it? No, it's not only the lookup skills that I need to check. Otherwise, everything would be simple. Dictionary skills may be influenced by the dictionary skill teaching and learning. So for example, the major question you can tell, why do you think that learners, they fail to use dictionaries or to use references in general? Why do you think? Why dictionaries could be a problem to most of students? Not to mention some of the teachers, by the way. You can type on the chat box as well. Do you think, checking a dictionary or consulting a dictionary could be challenging to some of the teachers? Good. Muhammad, very good point. Very good. Okay. So first of all, those who are telling that lacking a context, yes, I totally agree that the word is out of context, but it also depends on the type of the dictionary you use, because some of the dictionaries, they provide you with examples. So for this example, with this example, so at least you can guess the things. But I do agree with the people who said that too much information, it's too informative. That's correct. And also, yes, it's because it's replaced. Now, the paper dictionary, it's replaced by the digital one. So instead of, like checking, consulting, and trying to search and look up for a word, you simply type it. And you will get everything about the word due to the now technology and the access to the internet. Very good. But actually, the point here is that some of the students inside the classroom, because our main focus here is inside the classroom, why do you think students may fail to, consult a dictionary inside the classroom? Do you think it's something related to classroom management or the ability to afford, for example, copies of dictionaries? Perhaps some of the countries, they don't have kind of computer labs. So what do you think? What could be the main reason for that? Hmm. Okay. Yes, they cannot search, Muhammad. Very good. They cannot search. Why is that? Because they are not trained to use a dictionary. So, for example, too many copies, too many editions. So, for example, I have two dictionaries here. I have one, it's bilingual dictionary. I have a monolingual dictionary. And in my mobile, for example, I have multilingual dictionaries. I have general dictionaries, could be some specific ones, and so on. So what kind of dictionaries I should use? And will that type of dictionary at that particular level meet all the requirements of the students? For example, I have mixed level of students, mixed ability classes. So that could be a challenging. So a dictionary in general, it refers to the information contained in the dictionary, the format of the dictionary. And the dictionary, for example, they have the information, how it's arranged, and the language contained, for example, you can tell the information, the pronunciation, the semantic relations, and all that. However, any reference book, it refers to the fact that it contains information. So how dictionary differs from any reference book? The dictionaries, they have types. For example, the reference books, you cannot find the reference book. Let me remove the annotation. Thank you, Mr. Khalid. So now the dictionary is different from the reference book because the dictionary, you can find an edition which is monolingual, but in the reference book, you cannot find editions. You can find either it's in the authentic language, for example, the original one, it's in English, for example, and translated. So you cannot find a copy of a dictionary which is translated. So that's a difference between both of them. So for monolingual dictionaries, we have types of dictionaries now. You have to decide, as a teacher, you have to decide which dictionary could be sufficient for your students. You have monolingual dictionaries that can focus on more explanation, delve into deeper details, or give you definitions, example words, and valuable information in the original language, not in the L1. Or you go to bilingual dictionaries, on the other hand, that works on the translation, which has different pitfalls now because you cannot judge the translation. So it gives you the word go. So it's in French, it's commencer. For example, it's in Arabic, yazhab. So it's totally different. So you cannot judge, is it really commencer or another word? So it lacks that context, so you cannot judge this. Let me remove the annotation. Okay. So now the choice between these two can impact the learners on how they acquire the language. So here's the benefits of this. You as a teacher, you can decide. If you want to encourage your learners to think on the target language or foster their deeper understanding of the words within the culture context, as I told you from the example, or you want to, impress or post the immersion of or reduce the reliance on translation, yes, you can do that. Or if your level of students, for example, they're still in elementary, they need some help. So somehow you can use either a basic dictionary or bilingual dictionary because it gives quick access through the translation. So you don't need to move from the English and try to explain the definition in a different way. Okay, so now what is the process or the kind of information you can find inside the dictionary? For the dictionary, for you, you can decide on the dictionary. There are general features for any dictionaries. You can find either it's general dictionary or specific. For example, you need to consult an idiomatic or idioms dictionary, or for example, you need to check a dictionary for a phrasal verb, a dictionary, literally dictionary, or what? So who is the target or the end user? So what the dictionary you need to use inside your classroom to help your students master or acquire a specific number of vocabulary. And what is the languages? So it depends on the level of your students. You can select or you can decide on whether it's monolingual, bilingual, or multilingual. So, and also within or in a line with the level of your students, elementary, intermediate, or advanced. However, you can find different information in every dictionary. Not all the dictionary, you can find the rest of the 4 categories. So for example, some of the dictionaries don't have the pronunciation. You can find some of the dictionaries, they have the word and they don't have anything next to it. No pronunciation, nothing. And even if they have the pronunciation, do they have multiple pronunciation? For example, some dictionaries, they offer the American pronunciation, for example, like Webster, for example. Some of the dictionaries, they offer both, like Cambridge, for example, they offer the British pronunciation, they offer the American pronunciation, and that stuff. And also, whether they give you the phonetic transcription or they give you the allophonic transcription. And if you don't know the difference between both of them, so the allophonic transcription, it works on the allophonic variation of the sound. So for example, you have the sound. So sometimes it is pronounced in different ways. Sometimes is sa, sometimes is z, and so on. So it gives you the pronunciation. And then whether this pronunciation or this entry in general gives you any morphological information. For example, derivational of the word form, the inflections, and all that stuff, the parts of speech, the positions and the examples, and all that. It gives you also the semantic relations or no, for example, the word has, or the meaning of the words, they are related. For example, they are not related, like blasphemy, homonymy. They give you idioms, they give you the etymology or the origin of the word. So the strategy of consulting any dictionary has 4 steps. So for example, if you want to train your students or post students' skills inside the classroom. So you have 4 steps: the consultation, the entry location, the interpretation of this entry, and recording or note-taking, how your students should do these things. So how your students should consult a dictionary. It's a bit challenging because, as I told you, for the paper dictionary, it's a bit challenging because it consumes a lot of time. So you need to teach your students how to, weight. So you need to train them to weight up the cost of consultations against the benefits. For example, digital versus paper. So now if I want to check a word, it's a piece of cake. I will go to the website of Cambridge, I will do it. Actually, for example, the electronic dictionaries, they are more updated. I had this book, this dictionary, it's Longman Activator, since 2007. I'm sure that the later editions, they have more words. They have more examples. And also it's easy access and time consumption is too much for the paper dictionaries. So because what I know is like, how many of you do consult a paper dictionary these days? You may keep a paper dictionary in your library in the home. Yes, for sake of your good days. Yes, I have a book. I used to use this book long ago. You will not throw out the book, or you will not, lend it to somebody and forget about it. The thing is that you will consult an electronic dictionary because the ease of access or the time consumption is less, or it's more updated because these papers you cannot add to it. So the entry location, that's the main skills. So now you students, they will try to check the dictionary, right? It consumes time in your classroom. You need to include this in the structure or the tasking cycle. You need to tell them what to do in every steps. And then if somebody is stuck in every steps or any steps, they are, trying to, for example, in locating the word or understanding any of the vocabulary inside the definition or anything that consumes a lot of time. So it means that knowing which part of the dictionary are relevant for lookup and for checking, that's a skill your students need to master. So for example, you can find in this dictionary, there is no marks here, no marks here. And that's a pitfall. Why is that? Because some of the dictionaries, they keep marks on the dictionary. That means a start of a new letter. So for example, if I know that I need to check the word go. So, okay, so I would go like this. So I know there are a lot of, marks here. So I would just try to skip like this. And sometimes they write it also. They give for the end users. One of the dictionaries they do this is Macmillan. So Macmillan dictionaries, they give this, I mean to say, marks about the letters, the beginning of the letter, the end of the letter, so that it gives an easy access to students if they have to use the paper dictionary. So, for example, here is that option or that example is taken from a literary dictionary. That one is taken from an idioms dictionary. That one from a phrasal verb. That one from you can tell an advanced learners dictionary, and this one is an electronic one. See, let's compare the differences between this, and you can tell me which one could be suitable for you students. So if you noticed, here it's mentioning the French Revolution. It's nothing about pronunciation. Nothing is about the examples. No alternative for the word revolutions, for example. No pronunciation. It's not divided to syllables, for example. Syllables and no stress, no mark for the stress. Nothing about pronunciation. Nothing about the examples. Only information. And it's also a dictionary. It's called a literary dictionary. Okay, what about the idioms? The idioms dictionary. If you are consulting an idiom dictionary, will that fit your students? Do you think that this idiom, curiosity killed the cat, cannot be found in an electronic dictionary? What do you think? Do you think this idiom I cannot find in an electronic dictionary? You can use the chat box. Hello. Hello from Morocco. Hi. Okay. So such idioms you can find easily in some of the updated electronic dictionaries. But if you notice, on the contrary, that screen here, that screenshot I have taken from a dictionary, I think it's Macmillan dictionary. So if you want to check the entry, if you want you as a teacher to understand the entry itself, so that you can train your students to explain to your students, how to use this dictionary. You can find here the pronunciation, right? So let me use the annotation. That's the pronunciation, correct? The transcription. How you as a specialist in English language, you can interpret this pronunciation. You can notice here the stress, correct? And you can notice how it is divided into syllables. And also you can find different informations. Like, for example, you can find 1, 2, 3. That's a summary of the meaning. So they are giving you this in advance. So how this different from, for example, the literary dictionary? So based on this information, you can decide what dictionary is good for your students. You can find here examples. You can find here information about countability, for example. You can find examples. You can find other, alignment or other, you can tell, variation of the word. Like, for example, clearance, it comes with a scale, it comes with scales, it comes with cut and all that stuff. Correct? So here you have another dictionary, which is phrasal verb. The phrasal verb, you cannot notice any information about pronunciation. Yes, it is true, you can find examples, you can find a relation between the examples, you can find even some kind of countability as well, but you cannot find all the information related to the word, means the meaning. So, for example, from this part, you can notice the semantic relation. For example, are those meanings related or not? There's type of homonymy or plosiony. So as a teacher, you can interpret all these stuff. So based on this knowledge, if you're not able to interpret all these information, so you'll not be able to select or advise your students on a dictionary to use. So not all the dictionaries are fit for everybody inside the classroom, even for teachers. And even the dictionary you can use inside a classroom cannot fit for another classroom. So it's not like, okay, I will just get my intermediate level dictionary and I will go to my class. I will ask my students to get some information from that, try to skip, try to skim, try to scan till they get the specific information they look for. It's not about that. So, for example, I have this class, they're really good. Their level is upper intermediate, for example. So that dictionary might be okay for them. So, but I have in another class, I have mixed level. So what I need from them, I need them to be trained to use a dictionary inside and outside the classroom. So I will get them a different dictionary. I will get them a simple one that doesn't show so much information about pronunciation, about the word, the parts of speech, for example, perhaps too much of idiomatic words or too much of examples or so much of reference or word origin, for example, because some of the words, like some of the dictionaries, like Webster's, for example, it gives you the origin of the word. It tells you, okay, that's from Middle Latin, that came from Germanic source, and that was developed from that. It was slide and then child and so on. So it doesn't tell you all that. So the purpose of your selection should align with the level of your students. Okay, Muhammad. So let's start, move the annotation. Okay, so using dictionaries would primarily depend on the proficiency level of the end users, and the teachers must not give a blind eye to the mixed level they deal with. So do you agree or disagree with this? That's a quote I wrote in one of my articles. Do you agree or disagree? Yes, thank you, percent. Okay, great. Great, Basma, Minna. Then what is the key points here? Very good, all of you, thank you. So what's the key point here? Proficiency level, right? The level of your students. You cannot give a blind eye. I need my students to reach to autonomy. What is that? I mean, they can learn inside the classroom and they can learn outside the classroom. Let's say that your students, they have now their parents, they have a kind of a plan for their kids to during the summer holiday, for example, to read some of the literary books, short stories, some kind of any stories, literary text, plays, something like this, or even watch some documentaries or something like this. And they come across few words, they don't know the meaning of this. So they lost the whole points. They cannot take it. So what they will do, they have to ask the parents about the word or consult a dictionary, right? They have to search for it. So they cannot search if you do not allow them to learn the skill of looking into a dictionary, of looking up for a dictionary at least, or selecting a proper dictionary, they will not be able to learn outside the classroom. So here's the common European framework of reference for languages. That is the one can help you to identify the level of your students. Always I advise my trainees in the first day of the school, if you have a fresh start with a class, so run a diagnostic test. What I mean by a diagnostic test or a diagnostic quiz, at least you need to know the level of students you deal with. Why is that? Because yes, it is true that you have levels, but you need to align these levels with the activities you create. So for example, if you have a vocabulary lesson, and this vocabulary lesson, you want your students to use dictionaries, or you take them to a computer lab, so you want them to use dictionaries, either electronic dictionaries or online dictionaries. So you need to know that you have some kind of levels. Like you have the A1, you have the A2, B1, B2, C1, and C2. So these 6 levels. So these 6 levels, they have some criteria when using dictionaries. So I got you this from a very good reference. So it's all about the keywords here. So all the levels, they have to decide on something. They have to locate something inside the dictionary. They have to understand something, interpret something, evaluate something, record something, implement something. So all of the levels, they have to do this to somehow. But the level of doing the things with the C2 is different from B1. So for example, you can tell that the C2 proficient user can decide which dictionary to use. They are the ones who can decide. They can decide what to look up and why. How do you look up inside the dictionary? What they will look up to, okay? And they can locate the multi-words units. For example, they can identify the syllables, they can identify the stress, they can identify the multiple pronunciation, for example. They can understand the phonetic transcription, the allophonic transcription, and all these stuff. They can understand the meaning, the cross-references. What I mean by the cross-reference, for example, when you have a meaning inside a dictionary and then you have something between the brackets, or you have an error. Okay, go and check this, go to page that. So they can understand this cross-references. They can understand different information sources, for example, including the corpora. For example, if you have a corpora reference, means the database of all the language used, and then also they can interpret different types of text. They can understand the etymological information and all that stuff, and they can really analyze and evaluate this, and also they can record and take notes and all these stuff. So that's the proficient user at C2 level. But for that, you can have different types. So when you go down with the levels, that also the scale will be reduced. So the C1 user can decide which dictionary to use, but still he will need help because he decided it's paper or no. Okay, I decided to go for a web. Okay, he will still need little help with some of the information. For example, they cannot understand the deeper level of, for example, allophonic transcription. They cannot do. They cannot understand the cross references, for example, and that stuff. So you need to understand all the level, and I will allow everybody, if you want, to take a screenshot of these things, so that you know the level of your students, how they can, what are the capabilities they know. If you identify the level of your students, they are B1. So you should know, okay, B1 people, they are capable of doing blah, 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 blah. So you should not do or give or assign a task they cannot do. Correct? You don't need to challenge your learners. So you should know and understand, okay, what they are capable of. That's based on Kareem's, based on Muhammad's? No, that's based on the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. They said, okay, for references, if you need to use any reference, okay, this level is capable of doing that. So you need to understand these things. And of course, the same thing for the B. Now, the B1 can decide which dictionary to use, okay, and can decide what to look up and where. But for example, they can understand only the micro and in the monolingual, okay, micro and the macro. What is the meaning of micro and macro structure? Microstructure, it means all the linguistic things. They can still understand it. Not in a deeper level, but they can understand. Will they be able to interpret them? It depends on the level. But they can understand all the linguistic features. But they cannot understand, for example, the semantic relations. They cannot understand the semantic network. So, but they can at least understand the layout because they are in a B2. They can know, okay, that's the page, that's the beginning of the entry, that's the end of the entry. Okay, that are the difference meaning. Okay, yes, they are not related, but what do we call them if they are not related? He doesn't know, or she doesn't know. Okay, there are two pronunciation. Okay, but how can we do this? They cannot differentiate between, for example, the phonetic transcription or phonemic transcription and the allophonic transcription. They cannot do that. So they have some limitations. They can identify, for example, any unsuccessful lookup event and decide to look again for a different entry. If, for example, if they are not successful at the first attempt, they still can try and all that. But the lower levels, they cannot. So if they are going to identify now a word and they cannot do, they will simply close it. Failed. Mission unaccomplished. And all that. So the deeper, the lower level, you have the B1 and the A2. For example, if you go to the A2, they can decide to use bilingual dictionary. Now, could you see the difference? In B2, they could use the monolingual dictionaries, general dictionaries, or specialized dictionaries. But you come here, so those people in B1, they can choose between mono and bilingual. But A2, no, bilingual. Because monolingual dictionary will be totally challenging to them. So, for example, they can look at the entry. Yes, they can understand the micro and the macro, correct? But in a general way. In a general way. So they are checking a monolingual dictionary? No, they are checking a bilingual. So bilingual, it means that they are communicating with the dictionary in their original mother tongue. Correct? Nevertheless, it is their L1, but nevertheless, they cannot locate all the information. Why? Because it is a skill you need to guide them and you need to train them to use. And of course, the basic one is the means the elementary one or the beginner one. Those people, they are not even aware that there is something called a dictionary. Okay, they know that this is a book, it has some words, okay, but how to use it, they don't know at all. So they cannot locate a lot of things, a lot of information. So it's better for you to understand and run a diagnostic test to understand the level of your students so that you can know what they are capable of when using or consulting any dictionary. Then the third one is the entry interpretation, and that's the biggest task and the challenging task they have to do. Because, okay, now all the levels except the, you can tell A1, so you have another 5 levels, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2, they can locate and identify the entry. The entry starts, the entry, it means the word. Under every word, there are some description, right? Under every word, there are some description. So this description, we call it entry. That's the word entry. So all the information, the word entry means all the information written about this word. So they can locate it, but how they can interpret? It's different from level to level, but it's the main stage because they have to interpret each and every piece of information they have found and distinguish relevant and irrelevant. So for example, if I'm asking about the word minister, the word minister, it means a member of the government, and it also could mean priest. Am I right? So if I'm a C2 user, so I have a context of a religious context. So I'm talking about religion and all that. So the word minister, so I need to know the meaning. So yes, it is this one, the priest. But if it is political one, could be the member of the government. Okay, come to the A2. The A2 has the same context. Okay, not the same text, the same context, because the text will be different. Okay, the level of the text will be different. So this A2, if he has or she has the bilingual dictionary, and then he got the Menster, he found it, it's a member of the government, and then he will try to apply this to the context, it will be difficult for him. So he'll try to look for another meaning and all that stuff. So based on these information, you have to train your students what level of dictionaries they should use. So there are dictionaries. Hello from Georgia. Hello. So you need to train your students how to pick and select the proper dictionaries they use inside the classroom or outside the classroom. Of course, inside the classroom, you're the master, you're the coordinator, you're the maestro. So you have to tell them, okay, guys, we have different levels of dictionaries here. Okay, so in your dictionary and activity, you have to distribute these dictionaries, for example, to different groups, and based on these groups, based on their levels, you give them the appropriate or the dictionary that meets the requirement. Okay, so what information do you have to interpret? As I told you, they have to find the information related to spelling, of course, all the levels. Based on the level, they have to locate some of these information. For example, the C2 level can locate all of them. The C1, most of them. The B2, yeah, the majority. The B1, okay, half of it at least. The A2, some of them. So they have to identify the information related to spelling and differentiate the spelling from the transcription. And the transcription, they have to differentiate between the phonemic and the allophonic transcription, if it is there. You have to understand the typographical conventions, symbols, the punctuation. You have to know to interpret the IBA and the pronunciation, as I told you. So which type of pronunciation they have, the etymological, the morphological and syntactic information. For example, the morphological conditions. Like you have the word, and the word is countable, for example. So this word, we add an S, we add an ES, we add an IES, or it has some odd plural form, for example. So that's called morphological conditions. They have to interpret this. They have to interpret the syntactic information. So this word, if I got this word at the beginning, how it will be if I got this at the end. So this should be followed by a preposition or no. What kind of words can come with it? There is a collocation. Is it related to grammar? So it's a grammatical collocation, lexical collocation. So they need to interpret all this. You need to interpret the definition or the translation. Means because we said that A2, they cannot use the monolingual dictionaries, they can use the bilingual dictionaries. And they can interpret all the idioms and the examples and all that stuff. But the most important thing is the last point. What's the last point? Is additional information. What do I mean by additional information? This is a cross-reference, which I told you. some of the dictionaries, for example, or even the course books, some of the course books, when you get a grammatical rule, it's mentioned and they will tell you, for example, check page 110 for the full information about the rule. So it means that they will not give you the rule inside the lesson in full, but rather in the appendices or in the reference at the backside. Same way the dictionaries have. For example, this one is longman activator. So longman activator, if I check the word begin, it will tell me check the word start. So it means all the entries or most of the entries goes to the start. If I want to know the word begin and how it is different from the word start, I should go to start, not to begin. So all these appendices and information. For example, you can find different symbols inside this. If I don't want the symbols, if I don't know the symbols, what this acronym stands for, or something like this, I have to check, okay, the beginning or the end of the dictionary. So you teach them how to use these additional information. Okay, Muhammad, hold a second. I'm giving you. Muhammad, can you raise your hand? Okay. So, Muhammad, now you are the host. So, guys, that's a rubric. That's a rubric. You can take a screenshot of it if you want to evaluate your students about how they are good or needs improvement inside in the dictionary skills. So it's taken from a very good reference by the Common European Framework. Okay, and that one is the same for the skills. So that one for the linguistic information they will find inside the dictionary. That one, it's about the same wording. You remember? Decide, locate, understand, interpret. The same thing we have discussed with the European criteria. Okay, so that's the last slide. So that's the pitfall and challenges. So the challenges here, I would ask you, so what are the challenges rather than this? For example, the over-reliance on translation. So for this A2 levels, they work and they rely on the translation here. So because we know that exposure to the language will help students get more involved in the culture and the language practice, and that eventually will lead to improvement in the level of language. But when they over-rely on translation, that could be a pitfall. And also the searching strategies, maybe they are not applying this in a proper way. Do you remember when we spoke about the A1 level? They tried to find a word inside, and eventually they didn't do it. They were not successful. Then they closed, and that's it. And some of the dictionaries, they have limited entries, as I told you. For example, the literary dictionary or the idioms dictionary, or for example, the phrasal verb dictionary, they have very limited information. So this limited entries will not help students. However, you can use a dictionary that is, for example, learner dictionary, for example, but for the intermediate level, that will have a lot of things. And eventually, the last word is the inconsistent use. So it means students, they are not used to use it, and they are using this once in a blue moon, you can tell. So you need to keep this as a practice so that you can force and post your students' skills in using the dictionaries. So questions, thank you so much. I'm here to answer any questions, so you can type on the chat box. So thank you so much.